Let's address the elephant, or rather the pig, in the room. Someone thought it was clever to wave a pork sandwich at Muslims like a toddler taunting a sibling with a stolen toy. Look at me, I'm so brave. Except bravery isn't trying to offend a quarter of the planet's population over a dietary rule. It's about as courageous as kicking a sign that says wet paint and calling yourself a rebel. Let's use this opportunity to get educated. Let's talk about that sandwich. Back in medieval Europe, think England and France, pork wasn't a delicacy. It was a peasant food. Pigs were cheap to raise, roaming in the woods and feasting on acorns and scraps, while the rich kept meticulous records of their prized cows and served up beef, deer, or wild boar to flaunt their status. For the common folk, pork was a survival staple, salted or smoked to last through harsh winters. It was all about practicality, despite the lurking threat of trichinosis from half-cooked meat. Pork wasn't about prestige. It was just food to get through another day. If someone is tweeting a pork sandwich image just to stir up controversy, maybe take a page from history. Pork was never a status symbol. It was just a way to survive. Try coming up with something more original than a stale provocation next time. The Bible labels pork as unclean and categorizes it under shikets, a term reserved for things deemed utterly detestable. So while today's foodies might rave about pulled pork and bacon-wrapped everything, the Bible essentially gave it the theological equivalent of a one-star review. Here's where it gets interesting. Christianity, born from Judaism, initially kept the same dietary laws. Jesus ate kosher, avoided pork, and declared, "Do not think I have come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it." Fast forward a few decades, and Paul, the self-appointed apostle to the Gentiles, starts rewriting the script. For those who don't know, Gentile means someone who is not Jewish. Okay, so suddenly Christianity is like all foods are clean. Christians are following Paul's way, not Jesus' path. Modern Christians are like, we follow Jesus, except when Paul said something more convenient. Even if we set aside theology, there's a practical angle. Ancient dietary laws, including the prohibition of pork, were rooted in health and hygiene. Pork, and still is, a high-risk food, prone to parasites like trichinosis. The Torah and Quran's bans on pork weren't arbitrary. They were protective measures in an era without modern food safety standards. By dismissing these laws, Paul not only contradicted Jesus, but also ignored centuries of wisdom. Today, science confirms that pork is linked to various health risks, including heart disease and foodborne illnesses. So much for divine foresight. This is why Islam maintains its dietary laws without apology. The Quran doesn't offer loopholes or updates. It presents a consistent, unchanging standard. If Paul had taken a similar approach, Christianity might have retained more of its original ethos. Now let's talk halal, because it's not just no pork. It's a system, a standard with heart. Animals aren't just food. They're lives. Halal demands they're raised well, fed clean, treated with care, not crammed in cages or left to suffer. When it's time, the slaughter's precise. A sharp blade, a swift cut to the throat, done by someone trained, saying God's name to mark the act as sacred. Blood drains out completely, keeps the meat pure, free of toxins. It's quick. Studies show the animal loses consciousness in seconds. Pain cut short. This isn't random. It's respect, tying food to ethics. Compare that to factory farms. Pigs stuck in filth, pumped with drugs to limp along. Halal is not just rules. It's dignity for the animal and the eater. For us Muslims, eating halal isn't a flex, it's a covenant. And while faiths evolve differently, Christianity pivoting with Paul, Islam holding fast to its roots, the Quran and the Sunnah. The challenge today remains the same: to choose respect over ridicule, knowledge over cheap provocation. So next time someone tries to weaponize a sandwich, remember, maturity isn't about mocking what others hold sacred. It's about asking why it's sacred to them, and maybe, just maybe, learning something that makes us a little wiser.